And moving on in the verse 11, so we see she has had a spirit of infirmity for 18 years and was bent over, and she could in no way raise herself up. And also in verse 16, we see she's a daughter of Abraham, so she was born into the church. She went to church every Sabbath. She heard the promises of God. She knew the testimonies of the prophets and the king. She was a child of Abraham. And she would go to church. Where is she now? She's in the synagogue. So she knows the promises of God, but she's stuck. She's stuck. And for 18 years, Satan put this tight chain around her to look down, to look at yourself, to be miserable, and he was blocking her view from Jesus. But there is still hope, because it took 18 years of binding that Satan did. That's all he could do, right? Satan knows no mercy. He was doing everything he can to destroy this woman's life. And 18 years he was doing that, but that's all he could do, because there's still hope, because Jesus could take those 18 years and bring healing in one moment. And that is the power of Jesus in the gospel. If you're bent over with physical pain, with depression or anxiety that you just can't shake off, you can't lift yourself out of it, first thing we must realize is that Jesus sees you. He's watching you right now. And we can take comfort in that. And how Jesus sees you is not a hopeless case. He saw her and was filled with not only compassion, but he was excited. I'm sure Jesus was so excited. He's like, today is the day of your liberation, my daughter. Today I'm setting you free. So even though he was moved by her pain, he did not stay there. He was moved by her deliverance. So Jesus knew her name and he called out to her. Jesus is still doing that work today, where he's calling out your name. He sees your condition and he says, come to me just as you are. Come to me with your brokenness. Come to me with your bent over depression or back pain or whatever it is. He's saying, come to me just as you are. Next, we see he says, woman, you are loosed from your infirmity. We must practice to hear the voice of God. He will speak true perspective and light into our situation. He says, today you are loosed from your infirmity. And that is the promise today for us. Because in John chapter 8, verse 36, God tells us, therefore, if the Son makes you free, you shall be free indeed. It's the truth. It's the reality. When Jesus makes you free, you are free. She did not loose herself from the bondage and power of Satan by her own effort, but it was the Son of God who set her free. And then after hearing those words, he laid his hands on her in verse 13. And immediately she was made straight and glorified God. So God laid his hands on her. Where do you think he put his hand? On her back. He put his hand directly where the pain and the issue was. And that is where you can experience deeper healing. Not only hearing God's promises for you and believing it, but letting his hands touch you. And what is the hands of Jesus? Take time to meditate on those hands. There are hands that were so busy reaching out to the sinner. The hands that were so busy feeding the poor. The hands that were nailed to the cross. Imagine it right now. You can see his hands, beautiful hands of Jesus, the one who formed Adam out of the dust. That is the hand that touches you today, that wants to touch you today. In not just any random spot in your life, but in the most sore, the most tender, the most raw and broken piece of your life. He's saying, let me touch you.